Edges of brick and brick fireplaces, they're thick, and then all the other lines are thin. We use text for dimensions of room components, plumbing fixtures, and doors and windows. We don't typically dimension the doors and windows. Now, looking at masonry veneer on the floor plan. Okay, on page 369 in your book. I can zoom up a little easier here. All right, so now we've come in here and we've added this shaded representation, this hatching, a long rectangle here, and then goes around, wraps around here. You actually show the brick, usually total about 4 inches. It's connected to the outside line, okay, when we draw it. Your exterior dimension overall, again, still matches up to where the stud, face of the stud will be, or the edge of your foundation wall will be. Okay, an alternate dimensioning practice, all right, goes something like this, where we actually dimension and show how much space roughly is going to be to the outside edge of the brick from the edge of the stud. But that can vary at construction. So most floor plans leave that off. Okay, unless there's something critical about how it's going to match up with some structure on the outside here. We're trying to hold a particular dimension. Okay, you could have stone veneer on the inside, and typically it's just shown as a symbol, and you add a note of how thick the stone veneer is. Okay, so we put a 4-inch thick masonry representation around the exterior of a wood frame structure. Concrete block could be part of maybe a garage plan, or could be decorative, part of the house. So we can use concrete block symbology, or this wall here might be concrete block, and we will actually put a concrete block symbol in. Now, you wouldn't add this note, you would just show the symbol. And when we do that, if we have concrete block as part of the finish, and there is maybe siding or something added to it, we want to indicate it that it is concrete block, we will add a dimension showing that it is what thickness it is over here, compared each side, and give the thickness of the wall. Now it's showing this is just a raw partition with no finish on it, 3.5 inches thick right here. That would be kind of unusual, just a frame wall with no covering. So this would probably be 4.5 inches thick. 3.5 inch stud wall with a 1/2 inch of drywall on each side. Now if it's a production kind of drawing for layout, and it's a layout drawing that carpenters are going to use, kind of a combination drawing but not a finished drawing showing all the finishes, then you might have dimensions like this, and we would dimension to the edge of each feature. I want you to make a note in your mind though, they're showing this as a concrete block and it's 8 inches thick. Well, concrete block is not 8 inches thick, it's 7 5/8 inches thick. So they're showing a nominal size here, they're showing an actual size dimension here. It's a little deceiving, but typically we don't specify 7 5/8 even with that in mind. And I don't know why, but we just don't. If we dimension a concrete block wall, we'll call it out at 8 inches, even though it's not. So keep that in mind when you're doing a detail of a wall that's using concrete block. You won't draw it 8 inches in CAD. You'll draw it 7 5/8. Solid concrete construction instead of block is used on foundations and basements and subterranean homes, underground homes. And basically we pour concrete into forms which mold the mixture. On your CD there are videos, okay, of construction. So I want to encourage you to take a moment and look at those on foundations, on walls and so forth, and they're pretty good representations of actual construction. So solid concrete construction, doesn't look a whole lot different. Okay? Really. I mean, we can add a concrete symbol if this is all poured wall. Okay? So, as far as our floor plan, it doesn't look a whole lot different. But notice what's happened here. What's different here? It's lined up with the outside wall, isn't it? Because it does finish out at 8 inches, and in this case they're not putting any finish to the outside. If there were brick added to it, okay, we would still dimension right to the edge of that line, because that is the concrete wall that could possibly be the foundation as well. Alright, now floor plan notes and specs include window and door schedules, a table showing sizes and finish and material and manufacturer. I mean, door and window schedules can be quite complicated or very simple. We can have room names and appliance labels, which you've done a little bit of that already. Tub, shower, and spa. So any kind of equipment that's on the floor plan that's going to be part of the build definitely is shown. Now it's shown solid if we're going to actually install it as part of and sell it with the building. If it's installed later by the owner, we'll put it in dashed lines or phantom lines. The fireplace, the stair and closet, access to the attic or crawl space or basement, firewalls, floor lines, those are all labeled. General notes apply to features on the entire drawing. So let's look at this. Here's a general note. All penetrations in top or bottom plates for plumbing or electrical runs to be sealed. See electrical plans for additional specs. Provide a 1/2 inch waterproof gypsum board around all tubs, showers, and spas. That way, if you've got a 5-bedroom home with 3 full baths, you don't have to add this note in every bathroom. It gets kind of busy. So you can put it in general notes and you point it out to make sure they know to do this. It is a code, but it has to be stated sometimes to make sure it gets done. Vent dryer and all fans to outside air through vent with damper. That just putting it in general, again, keeps it off the drawing, specific location, okay, and cleans up the drawing by having it over here in general notes. Insulate water heater to an R11 resistance. Water heater in the garage to be on 18-inch high platform. Okay, so general notes usually can be in the title block or on the right or left hand side in a conspicuous place. Designing floor plans using standard construction modules. So when we're doing a design, and which you'll do later in architectural design course if you take that, material conservation and construction labor simplification is important. So we'll use modules that are 12, 16, and 24 inches. That means like a grid. We actually would plan it on that so that our materials that we buy, we have as little waste as possible. Metric dimensions I'm going to gloss over very quickly. You will have to answer a few questions about that in your study questions that you do. But most of the work that we do here, 99% of the work that we do in the United States is not metric. You get further north, or if you work in Canada, then yes, it's all metric up there. You may get some drawings from Canada, and they may be all in metric. So hard and soft conversions come back to visit. We had that on previous study. Typical inch units converted directly to metric, or soft conversions, the product is manufactured directly using metric units. So because a lot of materials are not manufactured to metrics, so we have to convert them. So basically the same thing. We don't use the millimeter symbol. Okay, it's kind of interesting. You just put the number on there and it's in millimeters. Okay, so let's take a quick peek on page 373 in your book. There is a floor plan that's in metrics. Kind of weird looking, isn't it? Different for us. Large numbers. These are all millimeters. Okay. So takes up a little more room. We still have to keep the same text height. What's our text height in inches, folks? What's our standard text height? Come on. Bound to know it.
6 inches.
No, well, 6 inches in scale, but on the finished plan, what are we after? Thomas, you know what that is? Text height? No, that's the label for all of our dimensions and notes. 1/8 of an inch. In metrics, what would it be? How many millimeters high? The actual paper measurement of our text. I'm going to convert 1/8 to millimeters roughly. Okay, it'd be 3 millimeters. Okay, 3 millimeters, and then your labels would be 6 millimeters. Don't worry, we're not doing a metric architectural drawing. So the same rules, except we don't use the plural for unit symbols. Use the plural of spelled out metric measurements though, millimeters, if we're spelling it out. We don't mix unit names, and the double M are assumed. Okay, and that concludes looking at floor plan dimensions and notes. Stay tuned. We will look at how we do it in AutoCAD and set up all of our dimensioning standards just a little bit later.